top 20 rankings may have been a terrible idea on my part. I got to be honest with you, I never do rankings. I do power ratings during the season. I let the model take care of it because I'm not interested in any criticism. I just want credit. But we got a lot of criticism from my post-spring rankings, which I have to admit to you, I put about an hour's worth of thought into. And it was largely just a gut thing. Again, these are things we don't prioritize. We don't value that on the show a whole lot. But I said, hey, what the heck? Let's just try it. Let's just see how it works. We're out of spring practice. I've been around a lot of these teams. I've watched a lot of them practice in spring. So let's just see how it goes. Let's see how it feels. Didn't feel good. So I released them. I think we did that on the Sunday show. Whew. We put Georgia at 11. I will obviously grant you I guess I'm not low on Georgia. I just got a little bigger question mark in my head about Georgia than the rest of the public. I would pause and I would ask two things. Not saying this absolves Georgia. Like if Georgia goes on to start the season on fire, then this is incorrect or whatnot. But just think about the last infinity number of years in college football. At any point, if anyone correctly predicted the way the top 10 ends in December in May, how crazy would it have looked? Or an alternate way of putting that. What would you have thought if you turned on this channel May of 2024 and I had Indiana parked in the top 10? What would you have thought? Aside from yelling clickbait 37 times in 15 different languages, what would you have thought? So the point is, just because it doesn't look like it makes sense, or it doesn't look like everyone else's top 20, it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong or unfounded. And at the very least, I would say, I've got reasons for thinking this stuff. It's not written in concrete. It's not etched in stone. I just look at a great talent roster that is short on proven production. That's what I looked at. I also look at the concept that if they don't rapidly improve their ground game, which they may, but if they don't rapidly improve their ground game, I don't think they have the skill set at quarterback to have a top 15 passing offense to offset that. So if they can run the ball effectively, that's a moot point. But see, I keep using the word if. It's just a question mark. I mean, I knock you out of the top 25, but it does mean maybe I knock you down a little in post-spring language. Now, if we get into fall camp and we start getting great returns out of Georgia, well, then you just bump them right back up there. It's kind of a blind guess right now. But the other part of this is, and this is rankings 101, this is why I don't do it a whole lot. You put a team like Georgia that's a perennial powerhouse at 11, and immediately you got a lot of people yelling clickbait, which I don't even address that, it's just stupidity. Or you have people yelling, no way, like definitive terms, no way, no how. I always ask this. How much comparative analysis have you really done on these teams? At the very least, we sit in this office all day, and we do put every team up on the board. So like I am thinking about Georgia in comparative terms to other teams. But how much have you really compared Georgia's offensive line to Clemson's? How much have you really compared their secondary to Alabama? Really, I wouldn't do that if I didn't do this show. I'd be paying attention to my team and my team only in spring. And that's if you're paying attention in spring, period. So Georgia's too low. Well, compared to who? Compared to who? And in what way? Because the first thing you're going to do if you need to defend Georgia is you're going to go to the past. But you see what happened this time last year is I said things like I didn't think they were going to be able to run the ball all that effectively this year. I said I thought they'd lose 2 games in the regular season. Well, we got accused of clickbait or being Georgia haters. No, we were just right. We were just right. Well, Josh, a Kirby Smart team will never fall out of the top 50 rushing, much less in the 100s. But they did. Is it an anomaly? I hope so. Probably was, but it happened. So it's not impossible for that stuff to happen. Ohio State's at number 8. So, of course, that was way too low. People thought that was way too low. You may be right. I may not even keep them there by the time fall camp rolls around. But it's largely the same thing as Georgia. Part of the tax you pay for being so good at recruiting and developing is you lose a lot of production to the NFL. You lose some of your depth to the transfer portal. So that's not necessarily something that bit Ohio State, but I'm speaking in general terms there. But replacing all those draft picks matter. Hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you do. It's free. It doesn't obligate you or sign you up for anything. It just helps us keep the channel free. All right, back to the show. You just don't get answers in spring. Replacing both coordinators, it matters. You don't get definitive answers in spring. So what I do with that is I say that team could be the best team in the country. But post-spring, I don't think that right now. I'm not going to do the whole if they had to play a game today because nobody ever plays a game in May. But I am going to say if I've got questions, I'm going to lean to the side of the question mark coming out of spring. So I put you at number 8, not the end of the world. And then I put Penn State all the way up at number 3. Guess why I put them up there? There's a familiar theme forming, and that is proven production. And it wasn't even a person. I had like a show. Someone sent me a clip of it. I can't remember what the show was. Someone sent me a clip. And ironically, the premise was I'm out of touch for having Penn State number 3. They said Penn State doesn't belong in the top 20. It's just drug use. You're just high. Like, what are you talking about? If you want to argue with me they don't belong in the top 5, okay, I disagree. But there's not really a big difference between 3 and 6. Penn State not in the top 20, it just goes back to this disease that people suffer when it comes to Penn State. Well, Penn State can't win a big game. You mean they can't beat like the best teams in the country? Well, Drew Aller, man, he sucks. No, he's about a B- to a B-level quarterback. It's not A or F. It's not 10 or trash. It's not all or nothing. There are 10 rungs on the ladder. Penn State's been like 7 or 8 for a long time, last year especially, and now they bring virtually all the good pieces back. They've got another year of experience at quarterback of a guy who probably hadn't played his best football yet. They went and replenished their wide receiver room like we hadn't seen them do in a while. They're going to be able to run the ball. They got 2,000-yard caliber backs if they were feature backs. They're good on the offensive line. They just signed Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator. They're good at all 3 levels there. Like, who's more proven than that? And coming out of spring now, we're talking about comparatively. Penn State, there's not a huge question mark on that team. They're tiny question marks. There are bigger question marks, relatively speaking, on some of these other teams. They'll play Ohio State eventually. And by the time they play Ohio State may be better than them. Ohio State likely will be favored against them. Ohio State would be favored against them if they played to start the season in all likelihood. But this is not the JP poll. If this was JP poll, I'd probably have Ohio State ahead of them. But this is just good old-fashioned rankings. I had Florida and Oklahoma pretty high. Now, I knew that would raise some eyebrows, which begs the question, did we do it for clickbait or did we just do it because that's what we think? Well, it's the latter. So Oklahoma was at number 10. Oklahoma, pretty simple. I believe the roster is one of the most underrated in the country because they were terrible last year record-wise, because their offense was a disaster. But I don't think the team was a disaster. I think what we're looking at here is a top 20, top 15 caliber defense that largely returns at that level. And I think that the quarterback offensive coordinator addition there, one and the same, they don't come from different places. They both came from the same place. I think it greatly enhances and rejuvenates their offensive firepower ability. And elsewhere, they're like 3 top 10 caliber classes baked into the roster. I just think they're really underrated. And so I don't care about last year because they addressed problems from last year. This is not some sport where you just hit the pause button in late December and then you hit play the next August. I don't believe in bowl momentum. I never believed in any of that. There's not carryover. Like, there are wild swings and fluctuations in results year to year all across the country in this sport. Just boggles my mind how everyone seems to get amnesia about this stuff. You watch the same thing I watch every fall. You watch this team look nothing like they looked last year, case by case, every fall. And yet come spring, so many people cannot divorce themselves from the last thing they saw last year as it relates to predicting this year. And that is an overwhelming sentiment. And that's why overwhelmingly the public loses when they try and bet on this stuff. And yet so many people just cling to it. It's crazy. Florida at 9. I think a huge defensive leap is incoming for them. A lot of the guys that they'll lean on the most have a ton of snaps under their belt. I was down at Florida the other day. I just asked Napier about Lagway. I have very, very little concern about him coming out of that conversation. I think he'll be fine. I think they'll be fine. I just think very highly of Florida. Also, I should note Nothing about me ranking Florida or Oklahoma top 10 is me projecting what the record will be. Because I think they got really tough schedules. They could both lose 4 games or more. First off, I could just be wrong about them. But even if I'm right about them, these are very tough schedules. These could be 3, 4-loss teams, even if I'm right about the caliber of team they are. So you are not always what your record says you are in college football. Now, my more seasoned viewers who like to criticize will say, there he goes. He's already baking in an excuse, which I kind of am. I won't even try and dodge that allegation, and I already know it's coming. Bama at number 4, I knew people would think that's too high. It's an Ohio State vibe from last year with me. They got so many guys that could have left, either via the draft or via the portal, that are returning. Penn State's got that to a degree as well. That's why I got Penn State and Alabama really high. And I think once upon a time, I'm going to speak about Alabama in a weird way here, but follow me. I think once upon a time, when you had your Ohio States or your Georgias or Alabama under Saban, you just accepted that it doesn't matter how many question marks there are, they are so far above and beyond talent-wise the rest of the field that they'll more than make up for it. I don't believe that's the state of these rosters anymore. I think the tops of the trees, especially from a depth standpoint, has been shaved off to the point where, first off, Alabama's got a top 5 talent roster anyway, but even if they didn't, like Penn State probably doesn't have a top 5 talent roster, top 10 maybe. But when a bunch of that proven production returns, and then you look elsewhere, and you got a lot of question marks on a loaded roster talent-wise elsewhere, these days, I will give the lean to the more experienced and proven team. But Bama's not proven at quarterback, is the obvious follow-up to that. And then my follow-up back is, but I don't think they need elite quarterback play. In fact, I look at a number of areas of Alabama's team. If you could just promise me right now, they'll be solid at quarterback, they'll be solid at running back, and they'll have a nice, solid pass rush. Give me B-level play in those 3 compartments. That team could compete for a national title. Because elsewhere, I think they're insanely strong. So it's just a DeBoer's staff I'm really high on too. So that was the reason. It's post-spring. That's all it was. We put it together in like 45, 50 minutes. It's post-spring. It's not the end of the world.